Good morning, fellow compatriots. Today we issue a statement on the summoning of Mr. Hakahinde Hichilema by the Zambia police. First of all, the police is fully part of the security agencies of the state. The Zambia police is our police. The Zambia police does not belong to any bunch of political, groupings. The Zambia police is sustained on the taxes of the people of Zambia. The Zambia police, which is under capture under the current regime, ought to be given a professional space so that whatever they are doing is devoid of political manipulations. We in the UPP warned the country to the effect that all security wings were under capture because we have allowed a bunch of criminal elements, a bunch of looters to find their way to a political power. And they're using this power to save themselves. The idea behind political power, when you understand this country's birthing through the mind of the men and women who fought for freedom, it was about its utilization to service the people, to service the nation. That is what political power ought to be used for. The political power that our men and women got from the colonial masters when they fought for freedom was for use to build our republic. Each and every citizen, irrespective of color, irrespective of tribe, irrespective of belief or creed, ought to feel protected in this territory we call Zambia. The people of Zambia do not have any other country. And therefore, when we see clearly injustices being perpetrated by the agencies of the state, that must be the protectors of the citizens of the people of Zambia. All of us ought to be concerned. It cannot be said, unless we are stupid, that the summoning of Ms. Hakahinde Hichilema by the Zambia Police Service is clearly not the work of the police service, but the work of criminal elements of looters that have placed the police under siege. Let us know where the police or policing is coming from in our republic. Before the coming of colonial masters, all of us know that order was maintained within our territories, that is within our tribal territories. We were 73 tribes living independently as nations in our own rights. But by 1900, when we were founded as one sovereign state, thereby bringing all the tribes together, all the parts of Zambia together, all their royalnesses, kings and queens together, under the rule of a company called the British South African Company, BSA, which later ceded control over the territory in order to permit the British or the Crown to take control of Zambia in 1924. We ought to know that it was only by 1900 that the BSA company started imposing some form of control in the territory, organized control, that is centralized control. And therefore, from there you'll understand that by the time that a fully-fledged police force was established, it was not necessarily meant to maintain law and order in the areas where the white settlers were. It was a federal police force which was unleashed on our founding fathers and mothers. And in fact, even the Public Order Act, which we've been talking about, was enacted as a deliberate ploy by colonialists to control movements of our people, to stop them from meeting to call for freedom. Now that is the tool that we continue to maintain today at a time that we need reforms, at a time that our country must be seen, not just be seen, but must also actually act towards ensuring that human rights are respected. And each and every citizen must know that there is nothing that is permanent on earth or under heaven. Everything is ephemeral, apart from the kingdom of heaven. And this is what all of us must know. Today you are a minister, today you are the president, you must know that you will not be president forever. Even all those men who thought that they were the most powerful, they ended up being hounded out of power in ways that humiliated them. So this is what all of us ought to know. The summoning of any of the political leaders at a time such as this one cannot, as I said, be said to have just happened, coincidentally. Not at all. This is well planned, and we do believe that it is aimed at reducing competition in the coming elections. If any Zambian political leader must lose the election, he or she must lose on a leveled playing field. How would I feel? How can I say I won when I stop? Electoral thieves must not be entertained in this country. We have a regime that has so looted the republic that they even want to extend the looting to elections. Our democracy is under siege. We have said that we not only have economic rapists, but we also have democracy rapists. And this is a call for each and every citizen to stand up and fight for freedom. And the freedom we are talking about, it's not a freedom to fight for freedom. We are not talking about taking up arms. Because you have one country, and we cannot let our country go into some kind of chaos or disorder. What we are calling for is a unity of purpose to ensure that come the next election, we the people of Zambia unite to stop even the looting, even the electoral fraud, all kinds of things that are plotting. We know them. And want to appeal to the men and women in security. You too have children. You must look at the future of your children. Even when you are illegally and lawfully instructed to help with the tampering of the vote, go home, reflect. Think about the blood which was shed during the struggle for independence. Think of your children. If the state of Zambia, the way our country is right now, if this is allowed to continue for another 5 years, where would this country be? What kind of foundation are you going to leave behind for your children? Let us not think of ourselves. Let us not think of our stomachs. Let us think of our children. Let us think of those Zambians who are not yet born. The majority of the generation that is living today was not there during the struggle for independence. And therefore, we should not take those men and women who died fighting for freedom to be stupid. We are making a mockery of the fight for freedom in our country. Those men and women went to fight before you and I were born. They fought, they stood up, they took bullets for all of us. Because they envisioned a country in which our people work together. Zambia right now has numerous problems. Apart from the debt, crisis that we have, the economy is not growing. And by the end of the year, I can assure you, growth of the economy is going to be about -1, -2, thereabout. Now this is the economy that EPF found growing at 7%. The Patriotic Front has just indicted itself in a public court. And I believe the verdict is guilty and that they must be sentenced, and the sentencing we are talking about is showing them out of government and to permit for progressive change in Zambia. And all of us as citizens, from wherever we are, we need to start organizing. We shouldn't take some of these Facebook broadcasts for granted. We are doing our part. We are going around the country. We are doing what we can with the meager resources that we have. And if you want to be part of the struggle, you can contribute to the struggle. Wherever you are, spare your time, start organizing, begin to organize to run for parliament, begin to organize to run for council and oppositions, begin to organize to run for the presidency. No wonder we in the UPP are organizing. And we do know that with all resources that we are putting together available, we must soon go to the convention, and our prayer is before the end of the first quarter of 2021. So that we can permit all other citizens that want to be part of the rebuilding of a new republic to be part of the united progressive people. We stand for the reclaiming of our nationalism. We stand for reclaiming of that glory which our nation has lost. We have never had a government so indisciplined as the current Patriotic Front regime. The value of the kwacha has plummeted. I'm talking about the purchasing power. Look at bottlenecks in the energy sector. Look at infrastructure. The projects that are going on, especially in Lusaka, you ought to know that where a kilometer has been done, there are more than 200 kilometers that are in the pockets of individuals. And at the end of the day, it's when they were repaying. Some of the roads have been worn out. Go and look at them. Go and look at the ring road in Lusaka and several others. They are already getting potholed. Look at the roads that are being washed away. Look at the bridges that are being washed away. They entertained short works to be done because they are in a hurry to empower themselves. They are in a hurry to loot. But the cost is too high for the country. These are debts that have been accrued, and more than 90% of these debts that have been accrued, you need to understand that those resources have ended up in the pockets or in private accounts offshore, in the accounts of the looters that we have, and we are calling them leaders. They're not leaders at all. Because a leader must lead the people. A leader must be concerned about that woman who's waking up every day to go and sell tomato. These are people who are taking things for granted. They have forgotten where they've come from. There are people in Zambia who, when they have 5 kwacha, they must sit down to come up with a budget. 5 kwacha, I'm telling you, 5 kwacha. They're going to buy 1 tomato from there. Then they're going to buy probably just a little bunch of vegetables. And that's it. And that's not enough actually to buy a capamela. Nobody's thinking of those people. A good leader must think of all those people who are living in the shanty, compounds, who are using flying toilets. There are parts of Lusaka and other parts of Zambia where people are living in some kind of temporary structures that have no toilets. And they use flying toilets. They use plastic bags. After helping themselves, then in the night, they will throw those plastic bags. Wherever they will fall, that will become a toilet. I do not think that this is the Zambia that our freedom fighters fought for. Even colonial masters knew that wherever the people were, sanitation was a priority. You go to Zakile, for instance. Go and look at the kind of housing. We are talking about a kind of housing infrastructure which was built before independence. At least you could see that they put up some kind of common toilets and common showers because they knew that people needed water. These are colonialists. How about the government of our own people? These looters must be told. These economic and democracy rapists, they must be shown the door to go wherever they came from. And I do not think that these people are genuine patriots or they are genuine Zambian citizens. Because if you are a citizen of Zambia and you care about Zambia, there is no way you can destroy this republic. And if you can't take what is happening to be annoying, if you want to be smiling when I'm talking about these matters, when you speak with a firm voice to say that no, Chishimba must be taken to China. Chishimba is mad. What is madness about all these things that are happening? No, you people are just crybabies. We are not crying. We are talking about the state of affairs in our country. And we are not just speaking, but we are offering alternatives. And it's up to a sensible government to take those alternatives seriously. Now, why am I talking about these things instead of talking about Mr. Hakahinde Hichilema? The reason is that these are the issues that we must prioritize. The agency with which the police is being unleashed on political leaders, if that's the same agency which was unleashed on dealing with looters, instead of finding time to invite Mr. Hakahinde, it's not a priority. That issue of Hakahinde is not a priority. There are priorities. There are people who have stolen. We gave you the evidence in the Mesgate scandal. We took it to the SEC. We took it to the Drug Enforcement Commission. We gave you the evidence on some of the Lebanese looters who have put the outdoor advertising industry under siege. And the country is losing more than $300 million. We gave you the evidence on all this. We also know how some of these people are living lawlessly, where there are court judgments that are not being executed. We know that our country is losing money through fraudulent accounting on the part of the mining companies. We know about the case of the CMIH, where they took on the First Quantum Minerals and others and not to court. In one case, in fact, they were found good and then privately they negotiated and then they paid about $500 million. Then went to court for $2 billion, State House intervened. Another $4 billion, they intervened. Now that is money which has been lost. Now, look at, we are talking about billions just from one mining operation alone. The country has been robbed of more than $10 billion and these are things that can be proved. We have the evidence. Look, go into the emerald sector and the precious stone industry. The same thing is happening. Illegal trade is taking place. The country is losing more than $4 billion in illegal trade of emeralds. Look at God, the scandals in God. Just from God alone, the country can repair her debts. It can only be, what is happening can only be reduced to one word, ubupuba. Ubupuba, ubupumbu, these things, ubupuba, because there is no treatment for ubupuba. We have spoken about this. It's only ichipuba. And it's not an insult, it's only ichipuba. Who leave something, you know that you have a meal here. You leave that meal. And then you go to look for a meal elsewhere. That one, you hide it. We know the solutions. We know where the money is. We know who has stolen. At one time, the PF regime told us that a huge amount of money, billions, are being put in the accounts of ministers. How much has been recovered up until now? Nothing. And yet these men and women have the instruments of power. Going by the counsel of FTJ Chiluba, of blessed memory, he said, when you have the instruments of power, let the people of Zambia evaluate you on the basis of why you are using those instruments of power. And we want them to use those instruments of power to recover the money so that Zambia can repair her debt, so that money can be invested in creating jobs for young people in the country. Local government has collapsed in Zambia. Look at the men and women in security, generals, colonels, and others, of course, who are serving in the police command, who have been retired in corruption interest, in personal interest. They have not been paid their money. Look at agriculture. Instead of strengthening the Ministry of Agriculture and all departments of agriculture, DACOs across the country, so that they can deliver the services to the people, what have they done? They have brought into the country their illegal money, and they are buying what they are calling seed packs. They are taking all these things across the country, and that's what they are calling empowerment. When they have killed agriculture. Look at the prices of maize. For this is the main produce in our country. Why are we allowing all these things to go on? These are things that must be prioritizing. Instead of going to that Hakahinde. Hakahinde has not brought economic problems in Zambia. No. Hakahinde has never been president. Hakahinde has never, ever controlled the state power. And therefore, he is not the problem that Zambia is facing. You, the people who have the instruments of power, you are the problem. Stop abusing those men and women in the police service. The police service is a police service of integrity. We do know that. And all of us as political leaders, let us stop insulting the police. Let's stop attacking the police. The problem is not with the police. The problem is with the looters. The problem is with these criminals that have placed the police under siege. It's not the police. From the Inspector General all the way up to the lowest person, a constable. Those men and women are women of integrity. The police are suffering. Military, defense, personnel and security, they are suffering. They too have families. They do not have another economy from where they're drawing the money. They are affected by the useless kwacha. People in the intelligence service, they too are affected. They used to get a lot of money in terms of water allowance and others. But most of these allowances have been removed by the looters because they have put their pockets first. And how do you expect the intelligence officers to operate when you're not giving them a plant and equipment? Meanwhile, you want to use them to steal the vote? It will not happen. I can assure you it will not happen. Let them plan, let them do what they're doing. Right now, all of us as citizens must be looking at how we are going to stop the vote. We have seen, look at the numbers in terms of the voters who have been registered. Look at the numbers. Look at the pattern. From there, you can tell a story. We shall not go into the details of that, but I can assure you that whatever is done with human hands is reversible, except it be done under the hand of heaven. That you cannot reverse unless heaven decrees that heaven wants to retract or wants to change the system. And in fact, it would cause such a miracle. Because if the Almighty does not interfere with nature, he doesn't interfere with it. He expects us to work, for instance, because he's the founder of work. And therefore, all of us as citizens, let us be preoccupied with how we are going to stop the vote. In fact, towards the elections, we are, in fact, I shouldn't say towards, in fact, as early as next month, we need to open a special account. We are opening a special account and triggering special account, and we want you to contribute so that we can deploy resources in terms of ICTs and whatever I can do to stop these thieves from stealing the victory, the coming victory of the people in the 2021 elections. And in the UPP are equal in terms of providing a kind of leadership. Where Zambia is, the country needs a firm leadership with a direction and vision to take us out of the murky waters that this group of looters have driven us into. Therefore, we call on the men and women in security. We know that we are operating under instructions. Leave that HH alone. HH is not Zambia's problem. Zambia's problem is debt. The problem that we have is youth unemployment, uselessness of the kwacha. These are the issues that as a country we must be uniting over. And all of us would gladly answer the call when we are called upon. In terms of being called upon for Zambia, being called upon to think of, or don't just think of, to brainstorm, to come up with practical solutions to help our people. In fact, strictly speaking, those of us who are not in the governing party, we should not call ourselves opposition. We are governments in the waiting, and therefore we are part of the solutions today. We are part of the solving of this country's problems today, and therefore we must be available when called upon, in terms of being called upon to provide alternative solutions, and we can show them where those solutions have worked, that they are tested. This is what we must be talking about as citizens. And we are calling on the people of Zambia to pray and to make, not just pray, but also to start uniting. And in fact, time has come to show solidarity, that whenever any of us is abused by those in the power, when they're abusing the police is being abused, we need to start contributing. In fact, there must be another special account so that we contribute towards the legal fees, because this battle does not belong to Hakahinde. This battle belongs to all of us, the people of Zambia. Hakahinde is only trying to do his part. If Hakahinde has issues of which he must be indicted, it must be done in a manner which is above board. But right now it is very clear. The PF has been in power since 2011, and they are clocking 10 years. Is it only today that they have identified the problem, that Hakahinde is a problem, that Hakahinde is a criminal today? Unless they are jokers. This in itself means that they must be kicked out of power. What have they been doing all along? We in the UPP know what to do on day one. We know which criminal is going to be indicted. We know which looter must be invited. We know where they've taken the money on day one. We need not wait for 10 years. We have issues, even on privatization. We have issues on many things. And when I'm talking about privatization, privatization is bigger than Hakahinde. Hakahinde was not a minister. Hakahinde was not in government. And therefore, we need to start with those who are in government. Those who are in government, under what circumstances did they engage all these consultants? So, it takes two to tango. We need to go to the, if they are dead, we are going to exhume them in their graves, and we'll try them posthumously. And to recover from their estates. Zambia must recover her resources. But right now, to reduce all these kind of things, you go into history and so forth, no, and you target one individual. That is totally unacceptable. Privatization did not, start with that HH. Privatization started with them and the looters. Some of them have been recycled, and unfortunately, they have crossed the divide. Some of them have been enjoying the same HH. They are part of the problems of this country. That's why we are saying recycling these people is destroying Zambia. That's why we in the UPP are calling on the people of Zambia to not recycle groupings that have recycled people, to put them into government. Because these are the ones that have always put even genuine revolutions under siege. And we need to admit about this, that this is a problem that we have as a country. There are many honorable citizens out there with credentials to help run the country, to help Zambia get out of the current mess that we've been driven into. This country is facing very serious problems. And we cannot pretend about this. This is very serious. And therefore, what we are saying is that the summoning of Hakahinde, Hichilema, is in bad faith. It is in bad faith. Leave that citizen alone. And this is very clear, that the kind of political advisors that are there, the so-called political advisors, they are just useless, a bunch of useless people. If you think that by troubling Hakahinde Hichilema, then you are trying to slow Hakahinde Hichilema, let Hakahinde Hichilema lose. And we are asking the people of Zambia, for us we have issues. We are not in government. UPP is not in government just like the UPND. But there are many serious issues that we have concerning the UPND. But that does not mean that UPND as a party is our enemy. There may be some elements that we know who they are and how they have destroyed this country historically. But at the end of the day, all of us need to face the truth that the problems that this country is facing have not been created by one HH. And therefore it is wrong to be abusing the police, to be deploying state resources to go and touch that innocent citizen. Haven't you had enough? One person arrested, is it more than 15 times? And I don't know, maybe this will be the 16th time. You mean you haven't had enough? And what is so stupid, what is so a matter of serious concern is that before the police even issue a statement, the PF as a party are issuing statements and they are determining how long this person is going to be in prison. That, oh, if we didn't learn from the 127 days, now we are taking that, we will not come about, we are going to die there. Fellow citizens, surely, in all fairness, is this the Zambia that all of us will watch and let it develop like that? I'm asking a question. Is this the Zambia that all of us must allow to develop? This is the moral question. Before all of us are citizens. Not just before the PF looters, but all of us are citizens. We are on earth. Someone is indicted, then a party in power, the political party, the machinery, begins to issue statements on what must happen. Remember what happened when the same church was detained for more than 100 days? Is it more than 100 days? Remember what happened? The party is on which started. No, we are calling on the Inspector General of Police. Let them arrest. Let them do this. They were instructing the police. And this is a sign that our police is under siege. The Zambia Police Service is our police. It's a police for that woman who is selling tomato, because when you are selling tomato, you are paying tax. Because you have not gone to the market naked. That cloth you have, that chitenge, you bought. And you paid the tax. And therefore, every person is contributing to the sustaining of the police service in Zambia. And reduce the police to a tool, political tool to be used by criminals, that the police know are criminals. There are people issuing statements instructing the police. The policemen are men and women of integrity, and they know that those are criminals. They're the ones who must go behind the bars. Let us respect the police. Let us respect the integrity of defense and security in our country. We have said that since 1964, the Patriotic Front Group has become the most indisciplined bunch of civilians who think that just because they can go and buy dummy army uniforms or even put on army boots, and then they begin to call other people as commanders, they think that they understand security. Why are you taking the men and women in security for granted? Can't you have respect for the system? You instruct the police, you have the instruments of power, but at the same time, you go now on the media on the attack. In other words, you are telling us what your plans are, what your intentions are. And this is clear. We need not look further in terms of evidence of the fact that they're just using the police to try and trouble an innocent citizen. This is very clear to us. Because they're making a mockery of the justice system, of the police system in the country. Can't you let him? That person, first of all, is a husband. That person has children who are looking to him as a father. That person is sponsoring many people. A scholarship program for many orphans and widows. And even is recording that. And therefore, I've told you, if this person, if anybody must lose an election, there are better ways to plan ahead instead of just putting this country in unnecessary trouble. You are dividing this country. There's so much tension in Zambia, and you are creating more tension. What kind of people are you? This is an unnecessary tension. There's more to do on the ground. If you think that just by distributing city packs and money, you think that you're going to win the elections, that's not the way elections are won. Such methods are outdated. There are better things to do to organize. There are better things to do to speak to the people than what we are doing. And after all, to a serious government, the 8 months, 7 months that you have, you can do something that can cause people to see. You just launch what you're calling an economic recovery program. Why can't you give it a chance? Why can't you learn from everybody? Take our manifestos. You are in power, implement them. We will not cry foul. We say this is very good. And by the first quarter, the budget which is being considered right now, but within the first quarter, you can prove a case that you are serious leaders. And the people of Zambia can give you the mandate again if they think that you have done or you have reformed. Now, instead of reforming, you are taking this country backwards. You are taking the country in reverse. This is not right. This issue of Hakahinde is annoying. This action is stinking. Just like you, the some people. Also, and then these are things that we are doing. This is not right. Let those men and women in security operate professionally. What What kind of a grouping is this? You are giving instructions everywhere, including statutory bodies, abusing them to meet your political ends. A new dawn must come to Zambia. When the cha-cha-cha was launched at cha-cha-cha, cha-cha-cha is a light that cha-cha-cha. A light must shine. Wacha, cha-cha-cha. Where is the light? You are not permitting the light to shine. You are hiding the light. You want darkness to rule over Zambia. Darkness is not ordained to rule over Zambia. Darkness shall not rule over Zambia. We ought to stand up and speak the four corners of Zambia. And I want to speak the four winds of Zambia to the four corners of Zambia. Even as I stand on the grounds that took the blood of the men and women who fought for freedom. That if those men and women who are lying in the graves are lying in the grave and they are happy to see what has become of this country, then let it be. But I believe that those men and women, if they were exhumed from their graves, if they resurrected from the dead, and they came to the land of the living, and they saw the state of affairs, I can assure you, those men and women will begin cha-cha-cha again. I'm telling you, they will begin cha-cha-cha. They will rise and they'll say, after all, this country is not free. Our country is under siege. Our country is under state capture. And we are allowing all kinds of bad elements to be the driving forces for our country. This cannot be allowed. Respect the police. Stop this culture of putting men and women in defense on useless contracts. Because you want them to be serving your interests. Commissioners on contracts. Some of them are still very young, they're younger than you are. They can't even plan because they know 3 months, whatever, you are renewing. Commissioners of police, senior and the senior officers everywhere. Why are you putting them on contracts? These wings must have men and women, and you are retiring some of them when they have reached a level that they have more skills, they are more experienced, and then you retire them to go on the street. Why can't you retire yourselves? You are the ones who must retire. You are now the chalo. Dumungana murunda. You must be ashamed of yourselves. I don't even have any like this. Look at what has become of this country. Are you happy and you are smiling? You are even eating. This is very serious. These things I'm talking about. Leave that Hakahinde alone. That Hakahinde is not this country's problems. We are telling you the truth very seriously. And you are not the Almighty to be determining who must do whatever you want to do. No. Why are you wasting time? Why are you wasting state resources? Let the police command concentrate on more important things to maintain law and order and security in our country. All the nations are looking at Zambia right now. Where is our integrity as a country? We do know that men and women in security are advising, but you are advising, people are not listening. And this simply tells you and I that this country which is under siege and all those instructions concerning tampering with the elections, all of you defense and security ought to know. Because everyone is suffering. We are suffering together. And therefore, unlawful orders ought not to be taken. We need to teach this regime the lesson which was taught to UPP, the lesson which was taught to MMD. That lesson must be repeated the third time. Affliction must not rise up again in our country. This one is Zambia that we have. I feel for HH, seriously speaking. Because you must have the heart. You people, what kind? It's like you have animal souls, because an animal soul does not care. You are using animal souls to rule over Zambia. You go and get a soul, a godlike soul, kind of animal soul, and you are trying to rule over Zambia in ways that are totally not acceptable. This is the only Zambia that we have, and if anybody thinks that we're going to be afraid of them, they are mistaken. This is the Zambia that we have. And we are thinking of the future, those unborn citizens that all of us must fight for and reparate our country. Look at how the federal police was used. It was unleashed on citizens. Many people died during the struggle for independence. And we end by reminding you, by cancelling the nation on the basis of the words that Mr. Louis Changufu used, of blessed memory, freedom fight. Mr. Louis Changufu received data from President Mwanawasa that wanted to honor him. At the investiture ceremony, he replied. In his reply, he said, Mr. President, I do remember during the struggle for independence, we were in Kasama. We had an organized resistance. The federal police came, they opened fire. I lost all my friends. I saw too much blood. I was running. There was a stampede. We were running. They shot them dead. I walked in the blood of my friends. Another time when in Zambezi, we were crossing the Zambezi river in a small canoe. We didn't know that the federal police was trailing us and we were on the other side of the river. When we reached midway on the Zambezi River, they opened fire. All my friends died. I swam in the blood of my friends to get to the other side of the river shore. I survived. I remember in Lusaka, the president, again, I lost. And he gave a list of all his colleagues, his comrades, that he lost in the struggle. And he said, when I look at all these men, I don't even know the graves in which they are buried. They died, though I survived. But I've never forgotten those men and women who died for freedom. It's very difficult for me to accept this honor. There are many Zambian citizens who are unsung heroes who are buried in unmarked graves. They died for this country. Leaders of Zambia have been cursing themselves by disrespecting that blood, by disrespecting those men and women who rose from the four corners of Zambia. And I want to seize this occasion to speak to Mama Inongewin. You are an elderly woman, you are like a mother. Show leadership. Your husband, Arthur Wina, was a freedom fighter. And strictly speaking, he founded the MMD. Because fighting for freedom was in his blood. Mr. Arthur Wina, the first, I believe, Minister of Finance, was a young freedom fighter. They stood up for Zambia. They fought for freedom. You grew up in a home of respected men and women who fought for freedom. And as a mother, don't be intimidated by the looters that surround you. Just think of what you went through and decide to do something for this country. When I'm saying something, I'm talking about standing firm to give a kind of counsel which is going to liberate this country from the looters that we have. You have a very respected background. You served in the civil society. Remember where you are coming from. Remember your husband. Remember, you understand it better. You were there. I was not there. You were there. You are our grandmother. You are our mother. You can stand as a strong voice, because I do believe that in the entire administration, you are the only freedom fighter, surviving freedom fighter. In the entire administration right now, the entire bunch of them, you are the only one who is a true freedom fighter, a nationalist. Remember, Mom, Grandma, the nationalism and what was all about. There was no Losi, there was no Bemba, there was no Tonga, there was no Namwanga. It was one Zambia, one nation, and we united. You can stand up firm. Remember General Christian Tembo stood up as a general. He was vice president. He stood up and said, this is incorrect. When he stopped the third term. You too can be a voice of reason in the Republic of Zambia. Probably the Almighty allowed you to be vice president at a time such as this. To be a midwife. Who is going to allow for the birthing of a country of men and women who care about this country? It cannot be said that the people of Zambia are not ready to govern. There are many young people with degrees who are more qualified than I am. Young people are skilled of the energy and the creativity. That is the creative potential that must be given space to change course in this country. We don't need people who think of their bottomless stomachs. They have destroyed this country. It's about time to reclaim the nationalism, putting the country first, putting Zambia first. We don't want people who are putting their stomachs first, who are putting their pockets first. We must put Zambia first. It's time that you stood up even in that cabinet and tried to put something sensible in the minds of these incorrigibles. Incorrigibles. Because they are formed like that. But please, speak for Zambia. Speak for Zambia. This country must unite. It's too much of division. Division across defense and security wings. People are being retired just because they look at the name. People are not being promoted, they're being transferred. They look at the name. Such things never happened in defense and security. Look what recruitments that are going on. Some of them are private recruitments. Go and look at the list. Recruitment in security must be tribally balanced. If you are recruiting 73, it means that every tribe must have one slot. And this is very important in defense and security. These men and women, our Zambia Army, our Air Force, our police, Zambia Police, our National Service, and the Intelligence Service, of course, prisons, these men and women are known to have maintained integrity, and we do know that they are still men and women of integrity, just like the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Drug Enforcement Commission. They are professionals there. The problem is that they are under capture. And I want to salute you, all of you, men and women, in defense and security. We know what you do for our country. We know that you're under capture because of corruption. Look at corrupt projects going on, construction of houses. You can give Avico, this Chinese, the same Avico is building houses for the politicians, the looters. Put Zambia first. Let us put our nationalism first. Zambia must be freed. Thank you.